So they re-released Titanic in the theaters. I heard as of yesterday it's already done $4.7 million. It's not even the weekend. If you're not familiar with the movie or haven't seen it yet, I suggest you plug your ears because there's a spoiler alert. The ship sinks at the end. Here's another couple of spoilers. She makes it back to Kansas, but uses the shoes. Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's father. It sounds like you've seen some of these movies, perhaps more than once. Why do we do this? We watch movies over and over again. We read and we reread books until the cover falls off. We go on roller coaster. Teresa and I rode Space Mountain 6 times. We got to a point where we knew where the turns were because we recognized the patterns of the lights. Why are we programmed to behave this way as a species? Amongst other things, I think it comes from our need to experience something. Whether it's a sweeping blockbuster, a roller coaster, almost anything, it's climbing up a mountain to watch the sunset. We don't want to just get on Wikipedia or Google it or hear about it. We want to live it. We want to watch the Titanic sink. Again, we want to put ourselves in that place so that it can change us, if only for a moment. That is what Jesus is doing here tonight. Taking us to a place, inviting us to join him, inviting us to be changed. I was putting some words together for this evening. I kept coming back to the same question. Why are we here? Not in the grand scheme of things, but really, why are we here? In church. Right now. I'm going to make a judgment that almost everyone in this room has heard this story before. We know how it ends. We're not here to simply learn an interesting fact or two. It's not that kind of knowledge. We're looking for some ways that are as varied as the people here to connect, to experience Christ on that cross, to know and to be known. It's like a couple talking to a young adult about parenting. There's no way that you could understand. It's that you had to be there moment. There's no way that you can know how it feels to jump off a perfectly good airplane. You have to experience it for yourself. So my question for us tonight is this. Were you there? Were you there on that great and terrible Friday? Were you there when they crucified? Were you there when they nailed him to the tree? When they laid him in the tomb? Okay, so they teach us in preaching class we're never supposed to use Greek or Hebrew words from the pulpit. But my professor's not here, and I'm just the intern. How much damage can I really do? So, everyone repeat after me. Yada. Yada. Let's try it again. Yada. Yada. That's Hebrew for to know. As in Noah knew that the water was receding. As in God telling Moses, know that I am the Lord, your God. Yada is also know in the biblical sense, like Abraham knew Sarah. So you get it? You got like Adam and Eve, yada yada yada, Cain and Abel. Coming soon to a t-shirt near you. But didn't you ever wonder how they made that connection between knowing and, knowing? It's because in the Hebrew mind, to know something was not simply to acknowledge it intellectually. To know something was to experience everything about it. To live with it, to live with something or someone, to experience its complete essence. I had a coworker in Michigan who got a DVD from a friend, a particular Mel Gibson movie, and he asked, so Jeff, why is it called good Friday anyway? I can see why he might have been confused. Good Friday presents us with a whole bunch of challenges and contrasts. On one hand, we have a story that's visceral and earthy. We have a man who's tortured to death publicly. We get some insight into how some of the bystanders behave. He dies. At the same time, the story is cosmic in its scope. At noon, darkness covers the entire land. The curtain of the temple is torn in two, in some accounts accompanied by a great earthquake. This most pivotal story of our faith is itself a paradox. There's a paradox at work in the scandalous nature of the goings-on here as well. To die on a cross was to die the shameful death of a slave, reserved for the lowest of criminals and traitors. And there is our Lord, the one through him all things were made, strung up like a common thief. What sense does that make? The most difficult part to understand is Jesus, God and man, hanging from a Roman cross and crying out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Jesus, the very Son of God, Jesus who could heal, who could walk on water, Jesus who knew no sin. Why have you abandoned me? My God, where are you? What sense could this possibly make? I think that this is the heart of what Good Friday is. It doesn't make sense. It's not supposed to. The message of the cross is not a puzzle for us to take apart. It's not a mystery for us to solve. It's something for us to experience with, to know, to connect with, and take up our own cross. It's the image of God who wants us to know him and wants us to know that he knows us. When we hurt, Jesus says, I know. When we're frightened, Jesus says, I know. When we're alone, Jesus says, I know. He's not looking for us to prove him right. He's looking to make us right with him. I'm in the middle of a class on death and dying. We've been sharing stories of grieving and loss. So many stories of well-meaning people saying truly hurtful things to people in pain. The Lord works in mysterious ways. I'm sure God will work good things through this. So many stories, they all play out the same way. Most of the time when people are hurting, they don't need an answer. They need a friend. Someone to listen. Someone to just be, to walk alongside with. This is what Jesus is doing on Good Friday. My God, why have you forsaken me? When Jesus is crying out, this is a real cry of real pain on a real cross with real suffering. I remember my walk in darkness, nearly 2 years as a professing atheist. A lot of it was because of the suffering I saw in my life, in the lives of others, in our world. I couldn't see how God could be a part of any of this. This world hurts. And Jesus, in a very real way, is saying, I know. Has anyone read the book Night by Elie Wiesel? If you have, you may recall a particularly horrifying scene where the Nazi guards are executing a small child. And they're forcing the prisoners to watch. During the spectacle, someone cries out, "Where is God?" And the author says that he heard a voice inside of him answer, "Where is God? Here, on those gallows. That's where God is." Where is God when a diagnosis comes back positive, the prognosis comes back negative? Where is God when another round of layoffs are coming and rent is still due next month? Where is God when it seems like you have it all together, but a big part of you feels alone and scared? Where is God? He's walking with us. He's hurting with us. God is grieving with us and saying, I'm right here. And here's the good news. Through Jesus' work on the cross, God not only shows us how he draws near to us, he transforms us so that we can in turn draw near to him. The cross is not simply a demonstration of love. It's an invitation. Look at the soldier in our story, the one who exclaims, surely this man is the Son of God. We're literally only given a day in the life of this individual. His story, like so many other things about this account, makes almost no sense. He's basically a sergeant in the Roman army, so he was probably the one put in charge of the execution squad. He's probably the one that organized the casting of lots for Jesus' clothing. His BlackBerry for the day might have looked something like this. 6 a.m., order 3 crosses. 9 a.m., secure the site for execution. 10 a.m., have the soldiers pick up the criminals. 12 noon, guard duty. Where does an encounter with the living God fit into this? To borrow an idea from a guest speaker I heard recently, how does a guy go from overseeing a lynch mob to saying, surely this is the Son of God? How does that happen? It's because he got close to the cross. He could not help but be transformed. Just like God walks with us and hurts with us and shows us that he would do anything for us through Jesus, he invites us to get too close to that cross too, to be made into new creations. Maybe God is tugging at you, pulling your heart. Maybe you don't think you can answer that tug. Of course you can. Not by yourself. Stand next to the cross. Draw near to Jesus and he will transform you. Were you there? Were you there when they crucified? What happens when we dare to stand too close? God happens in our lives. Not simply for our own sake, but so that the world would know, truly know, and experience how God cares. So that no one around us ever needs to ask that question, where is God? What does it look like when we dare to stand too close to that cross? I cannot tell you what it will look like for you. Because everyone is different, and everyone has different circles. But I can tell you what it looks like for a guy I know. It was a Tuesday at the train station, and he's waiting, and he sees a man curled up in the corner with a cardboard sign with one word, hungry. So my friend goes up to this guy and says, offering him his lunch, would you like my lunch? Would you like a bologna sandwich? Sure, thank you. And he puts it in his bag. Next week, same Tuesday, same man, same sign, same bologna sandwich. Thank you. The next week, my friend, 2 bologna sandwiches. Thank you, both in the bag. Week by week, verse 3, 4 bologna sandwiches in the bag, in the bag, in the bag. At some point, it's getting the best of my friend, and he says, is this not your best time to eat? Am I really bad at making bologna sandwiches? What's going on? he invited my friend, and they took a short walk to the underpass where this man had been sleeping with a dozen or so others that they called it their home. And he saw him distributing sandwiches. Where is God? I'll tell you where God is. It's Monday night, and he's up late making 20 or so bologna sandwiches. Because tomorrow is a Tuesday.
Stand as we sing our song of remembrance, these powerful words from this spiritual. It reminds us that we tremble at the thought of Christ being crucified, Christ being nailed to a cross, Christ being pierced in the side, and being laid in the tomb.